To say that you're all in and then you don't even pick up the phone and call Derrick Henry, you lost me. You can't be all in. To say we're going to be selectively aggressive means we're going to be choosy about what we decide to do. And if that means not doing much, then we've already put it out there for you. I actually really appreciate this and love this slogan from them because it's more aligned with the truth. It's more aligned with reality.
Cowboys reworking that contract, freeing up about $20 million in cap space for Dallas, which would maybe, guys, indicate one thing. Are they actually going to handle this offseason correctly?
No, they're not going to handle this offseason correctly because we know Jerry Jones loves collecting stars. But we said it yesterday, and I'm going to say it again. Collecting stars and building a team are two very different things. And I struggle to see a world where the Dallas Cowboys can pay Dak top of the market, can pay CeeDee Lamb top of the market, can pay Micah Parsons and make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the National Football League, along with just giving Osa Odighizuwa a huge payday. I struggle to see a world where paying all of those guys leaves enough resources to address all the holes that the Dallas Cowboys have. I think people have an illusion of how good this Cowboys team is. You got to remember, they have key pieces on their team, both sides of the ball, that are going to potentially be gone this year. Zach Martin just retired. DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent. Your leading rusher, Rico Dowdle, is a free agent. DeMarvion Overshown tore 3 ligaments in his knee in December, so you're not going to be able to depend on him next year. Jordan Lewis, who is a respected leader in that locker room in that secondary, is a free agent. And not to mention the other guys that are a year away from free agency that you probably better get contracts worked out with sooner rather than later. So there are a lot of issues that this team is facing from a contractual standpoint, and I struggle to see a world where they have enough resources, enough cap space to take care of all of the players that are currently on the roster and then add in the areas that they need to improve in order to be competitive with the upper echelon teams in the NFC.
I struggle to see a world in which they handle this offseason correctly as well, because just because you have $20 million now of cap space doesn't mean that they're going to go on some spending spree. And CeCe said that there are players that they should probably figure out their contract situation sooner rather than later. Why would I have any confidence that the Dallas Cowboys did that or will do that based on the way that they handled the Dak Prescott deal right before the start of the season, the way they drug out the CeeDee Lamb negotiations prior? Why would I ever give them the benefit of the doubt when their actions have shown me that they haven't handled off seasons correctly and that they haven't acted with the requisite urgency that we would expect them to?
So I just want to make sure we're all clear on this. So yesterday they make moves where they restructure with CeeDee Lamb to free up cap space. They get the contract done with the defensive tackle, and none of it leads either of you to believe, okay, they're trending in the right direction. Now, I just want to make sure we're clear on that. Like, so they still haven't won you over in any way, shape, or form based on the moves they made yesterday.
No.
How is their team better than what it was last year?
Well, okay, so let's go there for a second, CeCe. I'm not suggesting in any way that it is. I'm suggesting that they made moves yesterday to try to free up space in the case of CeeDee Lamb, which I assume they'll do the same kind of thing with Dak, to ensure that there's more room to bring in more players, right? I mean, that's why you do that, no?
Is that why they're doing that, or are they trying to take care of their own?
Well, I don't know. You have to explain this better than we could, right? Because we see a lot of these contracts that are reworked, restructured. Oh, they free up cap space by doing this. So let's just use CeeDee Lamb as an example. What exactly, in layman's terms, for everybody to understand, including us, what did the Cowboys do with CeeDee Lamb yesterday, and how could that, in theory, if you trusted them, help them this year?
Well, it helps them because they can go shopping in free agency. They can add offensive linemen. They can add defensive linemen, especially on the interior of that defensive line where they were, dare I say, a little bit soft last year. The Dallas Cowboys gave up the most rushing touchdowns in all of football. And there's a team in their division, I don't know if you heard of them, the Philadelphia Eagles, who just re-signed Saquon Barkley to a 2-year extension at $20 million per. They're still going to have to deal with them. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you have to make dramatic improvements from where you were a year ago on the defensive side of the ball. And I'm sorry, re-signing Osa Odighizuwa and paying Micah Parsons is not going to be enough to say we got better there. It's not. And so when we start projecting out what the Dallas Cowboys are going to be in 2025, you look at teams like the Washington Commanders, you look at teams like the LA Rams, you look at teams like the Green Bay Packers, and you're thinking to yourself, okay, these teams are going to be aggressive in trying to get better. I don't see that from the Dallas Cowboys in terms of being able to have the resources to do that and pay the guys that they need to pay that are already on their team.
So every move they make to free up space to go get guys is one step further away from what you believe their goal should be, which is breaking the whole thing up.
Well, yeah, because it feels like they're trying to keep this thing together with bubblegum and duct tape. I keep mentioning this, but there are other players that are not free agents this year, but will be free agents next year that the Dallas Cowboys also have to think about taking care of. Because the biggest issue with the Dallas Cowboys and how they manage their salary cap is that they pay guys too late in the process and not early enough after they have identified them as core pieces. So the players that I'm talking about, guys like Tyler Smith, a Pro Bowl caliber left guard, guys like Jake Ferguson, guys like Deron Bland, guys like Donovan Wilson, Kevontae Turpin, all-pro returner. Those guys are going to need new contracts sooner rather than later. So it's not just the Micah Parsons of it all. It's not just about paying Osa Odigizua. It's not just about finding another reliable pass catcher outside of CeeDee Lamb. It's not just about replacing all-world guard Zach Martin. It's not just about trying to fortify the left tackle position. It's also about making sure that you take care of the guys that you need to ahead of time so you're not in this same position where you have to pay a top-of-the-market price later on in the offseason process as a player gets closer to free agency.
So let me ask you this question here. All right? So we started this by asking the question, based on the moves the Dallas Cowboys made yesterday, specifically the CeeDee Lamb move in freeing up money, are the Cowboys handling the offseason correctly? What if I told you that the Dallas Cowboys this offseason, you mentioned Smith, Ferguson, Bland, Wilson, Turpin, used the $20 million of space that they just created to sign all of those guys a year in advance? Every one of them. Would you think differently about the Cowboys? If the Cowboys said, you know what, our offseason is going to be to model ourselves like the Eagles, is to sign guys in advance instead of wait for a year. Because guess what happens? When we offer someone set for life money that doesn't have set for life money has different levels, right? If you've never made $1 million and you're waiting for $3 million, taking the $1 million that's in front of you is really easy to do. That's what the Eagles do with a lot of, not in Saquon, he's made millions, but you get the point. What if the Cowboys offseason was that, CeCe? Then would they be handling it correctly?
I mean, you could say it's handling it correctly, but are you improved as a team? That's the part that gets dicey. That's the part that people don't look at. I didn't think the Cowboys were a supremely talented team last year. I didn't. I thought they were way more name than game. How are they getting better? If they do what normal functioning teams do, if they execute the Philadelphia Eagles game plan with taking their care of their own a year early rather than a year late, how are they adding to the group from last year to make them better, to put them on par with the two best teams in their division, to put them on par with the top six teams, or six or seven teams in the conference? How are they doing that? I guess that's the big question that nobody can answer.
Yeah, that is a big question. And while I couldn't say that they were additive in their quest to match the Commanders and the Eagles,